Hey, what's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, quickly, I want to go over why I support President Joe Biden's infrastructure plan, okay? He has an infrastructure plan that's on the table. You guys go do your research because I'm going to go over some things broadly, okay, that I think that's very important, that's very good for the community, okay, and for the country as far as getting the country back on the right track, okay, and propelling the country into the future, okay, and addressing some very, very, very important things that we need to address, okay, going forward. Okay, guys, so like I said, it's a big infrastructure plan. Like a lot of these plans, like a lot of things that are proposed, they're pages and pages, okay, of proposal. So you really have to dig deep and do your research, okay, to see exactly what's in the plan and all that entails. But I'm going to just, like I said, go over some of the main things, okay, just to get you guys started for those who haven't really looked into it. And so you can see how these things really will and can benefit you, okay? Now, guys, for one, in the infrastructure plan, he wants to address all infrastructure. So some people just believe that infrastructure is just like roads, okay, and buildings, okay. For one, he wants to upgrade all these things, okay. Now, there's some people who have problems with upgrades and change, okay. Some people just want things to stay exactly the same, okay, and have a problem with things upgrading and changing, okay, and evolving and going forward. But we have never just stayed stagnant, okay? So, you know, before there were no railroads, okay? Before there were no regular roads, before, there a lot of the things that we think are just standard and simple infrastructure, and in our modern day time, we just take these things for granted and think that they've always been, or we just kind of look at it like they always have been here. But no, these things were at some point upgrades, okay? So we're going to keep on upgrading, okay, guys? And so like what he wants to do, guys, is like, for example, the schools that our children go to, right? Some of these schools are old as I don't know what, and they're very outdated and they're very dangerous, okay? So, and some of the pipes, they have lead in the pipes, so some of the water is being fed, or some of the pipes are feeding lead, okay? And when your children are drinking out the water fountain and washing their hands, anything they're doing, okay, a lot of these pipes are lead pipes, even within our cities, okay? Look at Flint, Michigan, okay? So, and Flint, Michigan is not the only place, okay? Anytime you see something on the news, it's a lot of times it's a bigger problem. You just can't put every single situation on the news. So sometimes, there are high profile situations that shine the light on a big problem, okay? But there's plenty of Flint, Michigans, okay? With all kinds of, toxic water from lead pipes and things like that, okay? That's outdated, okay? So he wants to upgrade the pipes so we can have cleaner water, okay, going through our pipes, so we can all have access to cleaner water, okay? Because that lead in the pipes have damaged a lot of people. Some things we don't even know how it has damaged people, okay? And so, clean water. We all deserve clean water. That's an upgrade. That's something for you to think about. People who live in places like Flint, Michigan, okay? Who children go to inner city schools, okay? Let's think about their health. That's one thing that's good about this plan. That's one of the major things that I really, thought that was very important, okay? And so also, guys, you have things like the electric grid. Now, you think about what happened in Texas, and it's like, once again, it's not just Texas. These things happen all the time, okay, where our electric grids go down, okay? So, and when that happens, guys, that costs a lot of money. I think it costs like $70 billion a year or things like that, just to mitigate these problems or to bounce back from these problems. So if we just go ahead and upgrade and address the electric grid now, we can save money in the future. So for people who try to act like it's a money issue and try to use money as the excuse for why they don't want to make upgrades and do things differently, okay, we are going to end up saving money, okay? Because once we get it right, then we don't have to address it as much, okay? So we're going to save money. Plus, it's not just going to save money as far as trying to bounce back from when the grid goes down, but also just for people, for every individual, for the citizens of the country, You understand that when we make these upgrades, when we have more efficient, clean energy, for one, it's cleaner and safer and healthier for the environment and better for the environment, which is better for the people. But two, it's more efficient, okay? So therefore, you're going to save money on your electric bills, right? And we all want to save money. That's what it's all about, right? If we're worried about saving money, then this is a way that we can save money in the in the long run. Sometimes it takes money to make money, okay? So you have to spend a little money, but it'll save us money going forward, if that makes sense, okay, in the future. You have things like high-speed internet. He wants to have high-speed internet all throughout everyone's homes. Now, why is this important? Because I talk about things like this in the past on some of my other videos. I touch on things about like how we're in the information age now, okay? And that's why we have to give some like older people the benefit of the doubt sometimes, because they didn't have the internet, okay? If you're like 40 and down, you kind of grew up with the internet. You see what I'm saying? You grew up with access to information or at your fingertips, okay? And not having to work very hard for it, okay? You can Google things. All they had is libraries, and you had to go, bury yourself in the library and just read books, and it was just harder. You know what I mean? It was much harder to try to find out information. Well, now we have but in the inner city sometimes, or in rural areas, okay, you may have people who can't afford the internet, okay, and so therefore they can't afford to be able to learn new things, okay, or to have information at their fingertips. That's one of the reasons that poverty is associated with the uneducated, okay, because you just don't have the same resources a lot of times and access to the same information. Well, this will give our children and ourselves, everyone to have the opportunity now to have broadband internet at faster speeds. You know what I mean? And to be able to contribute. You know what I mean? And as things go digital, more digital and things like that, everybody will be able to participate. Okay. He also wants to deal with like affordable, sustainable housing. Okay, guys. So this is big too. So there always kind of been, affordable housing for people who can't afford housing. But I think in this plan and going forward, things are going to kind of shape up to where, if you think about it, guys, millennials, for example, have a hard time trying to get homes and get started, and it's not their fault, okay? The thing about it, guys, with what people don't understand or don't talk about as much is how you growing up, and you have grown up and are in situations that your parents and people before them were not in, okay? So for example, when your parents, let's say if you're 30 and your parents is in their 60s or 70s, right? When they got that same house that you may be living in with them, okay, they're not necessarily going to tell you that, oh, we only had to pay $20,000 for this house. When we bought this house 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, this house was $20,000. Are you going to get a $20,000 house now? No, it's different, okay? So they was able to pay cheap, you know what I mean, for their house, plus their dollar went a lot further than your dollar goes. So, for example, guys, the dollar has become so devalued to where the money, it just takes so much money, okay, to try to be able to afford something of any real value, okay, guys. So back then, if they made their $10 an hour, back then it's like maybe like our $30-$40 an hour now, if that makes sense. So that's another thing. So let's say if an older person was trying to sell you on why you're not moving as fast as they were able to, or things like that, you can also tell them, and they try to say something like, well, I made $10 an hour. Yeah, you made $10 an hour 40 years ago, and the dollar was valued way higher. So it's more like you making $40 an hour now, okay, or something like that. So your dollar went a whole lot further than my dollar today. So it's different. Okay, guys. So he wants to just make things more affordable and give us more opportunities now, so we can be able to tangibly, realistically, practically be able to set ourselves up so we can do the same things that our parents did. But it's just going to be different because we're in different times. The value of the money is different and things like that. The situation is just altogether different now. So they're going to be different. I think there's different programs that are proposed to help millennials be able to get their first home realistically, okay? Because a lot of these jobs that we have out here now, these service sector jobs and things like that aren't paying any real money. Okay, they're not paying any real money. You're not going to be able to afford a house. The same house that was only $20,000 that your parents paid, you know, when they signed their contract, you know, or whatever, for their home, you know, they paid $20,000 for that house. Now, if you try to buy that same house, it's like $100,000 now. You see what I'm saying? It's different. Plus, your money is worth less than what it was then. Okay, and then what a lot of these people won't tell you is even with things being so much easier back then, as far as to be able to get a home and things, some people still don't have their homes paid off. So you have like refinancing on a $20,000 house. Man, do you know what I would do for a nice home, a brand new home, or just a nice home to only be $20,000? You could save that even with these low sector jobs. If you're smart, you know what I mean, you're disciplined, you could save up for that in like you could save to pay that house off in 3 years. You know what I mean? Or save, you know, in 3 years and just pay it for that house cash. But you got some people who still don't have their house paid off. 35, 40 years in the home, refinancing. The home was only $20,000, $30,000 back then, and it's still not paid off. So don't you feel bad, okay? Don't you feel bad. Your situation is way more difficult than theirs, okay? But there's help, you know what I mean? There's things being put on the table now to address this, okay? Let me see. Yeah, then another thing I was saying about the schools is just not the lead pipes, for example, but a lot of these older buildings, they have like you know, asbestos and things like that in the wall, man. So, you know, a lot of these things need to be rebuilt and restructured. Some people just want to hold on to old things no matter what. They have a problem with it. For example, I do have a family member. I never forget. This was a few years ago. Middle school in my area. For those of you guys who are from my area, then you know of Huntington Middle School. It used to be Huntington High School. It was a very old building, and there was a big debate. I don't know if they're tearing it down now or what, but it was a big debate on whether it should be tore down or restructured or anything. I think they was either going to try to rebuild it or tear it down altogether and maybe just move on. And then you have people who went to that school back when it was a high school and things like that who were fighting to keep it up. And you're just, what are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? You're not really making any real sense. You're just fighting to try to uphold something that it makes no sense to try to uphold. So you don't care about, you're not going into the facts, or you don't care about how old that building is and how it's a detriment to the health of the children that's going there, because the school is close to 100 years old or something like that, and it has asbestos in the walls, and it has lead pipes and all these different things, and the paint, some of the older paint may have certain chemicals and things like that, who knows, okay? But you're just fighting to try to keep something up just to say, oh, that was my high school and I went there 40 years ago, 30 years ago, so I want to keep it up. No. Is it safe? Okay? No. So this is infrastructure, okay, guys? And like I said, and it's not just buildings, it's not just roads, it's everything, okay? It's high-speed internet, it's modernized transportation and upgrading our transportation. You know, it's like I said, dealing with our plumbing, okay, our plumbing systems, our sewage systems, and all these different things. It's all infrastructure, okay? And so that's a good plan. Okay, that's something to support. It's something to see if it's going to be followed up on, okay? And these are things that you should be looking into and researching, okay? Because it affects you, okay? And your children. All right, guys. Hopefully this was a helpful video. Peace.